Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Button, Season 4, Episode 42. I'm your host, Alejandro, making his monthly check-in.
Oh, hey, everybody. I am very busy.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just I was just keeping tab of all the episodes of this month, and it was Joe and Ray the first week of November, then Hogue, then Joe and Sebastian last week, and now you. So it's
Yep, it has been a wild and busy few weeks for sure. I have barely had enough time to breathe, much less record, but I'm here now, and then I will disappear again for a little bit, but then I'll be back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny to think that the presidential election happened since the last time that you were on.
Oh gosh, yeah, you're right.
It feels like a year has happened since then. But
it's been a long few weeks, that's for sure.
Yeah, but it's a beauty that whenever we do this, it's just kind of escape. And technically, you were gonna be here last week, and then something happened. So I have to thank Joe and Sebastian to kind of jump in right at the last minute, because we're trying to kind of rejigger some things, and then things happen like it always does around this time of year.
Every time.
So, and there's a phone call. I'm turning off right now because we are busy.
How dare you, gosh.
And yep, it is that time of the year. Things are I'm so jealous. This is always the week that I'm so jealous of no longer being in the U.S. because this is gonna be Thanksgiving week here. We're recording very early compared to how we usually do it. And whatchamacallit, we don't do Thanksgiving breaks here, so this is just normal week. Though there is Black Friday, so everything's kind of on sale, everywhere. Even though we've been celebrating a month and a half of Black Friday here, which is so weird. Everyone it's been going from celebrate Black Friday to Black November to Black something. Welcome to Black Walmart, which is the funniest thing when you see it out of
yeah.
You gonna get anything for Black Friday, Paul?
I don't think so. I think I am pretty much bought up on everything that I need to. Fortunately, places have been doing week-long Black Friday sales. So I actually collected the two last compendiums for the Invincible comics.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 3 books that are each about this thick right now. Actually, you can see it right here on my bookshelf.
Yeah.
It is a thick mammoth jam, and I'm about to have 2 more of those adding on to it, so that's going to be exciting. And we'll see what else ends up getting bought. I don't know. I might want to try to collect one of the Pikmin games just to build my collection and get my tradition, because last year I got Pikmin 1 and 2 for Christmas, but overall I've got pretty much everything that I need. It's going to be just the time of getting things for my son now.
Yeah, it's gonna now you have to start budgeting for that, slowly.
Yep.
Trying to think of his toys, then eventually him starting to play games. Are you gonna wait for him to be 2 or 3 to start getting him into games?
Right now I think 2 at the midpoint, honestly. There's probably a chance where I'm gonna give him a dead controller and I'm gonna play stuff until he thinks he can, or until I think he can handle it. We'll see how it ends up going, because as it is right now, I might let him choose something and then I do it on the controller. I did a lot of that with my uncle. So hopefully that's what we end up doing.
Yeah, man, I can't wait to start to keep hearing as Embers just keeps growing, and how that keeps evolving, and you have slowly but surely kind of becoming more free, quote unquote, compared to how you have to kind of be that you're being basically grabbed by the belows, on everything and keeping everything tight. But yeah. Enough chatter of that, because this is the X Bottom podcast, Escapes Gaming podcast that posts every Fridays from 10 a.m. onwards, God willing, available in the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at tinyurl.com/escapegaming. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. So, Paul, Stalker 2 came out last week. I think it was Thursday that it came out, or whenever it was, the 20th. When was it, 20th? It was a Wednesday. It was
Wednesday.
It was a Wednesday. So we both played it. I literally played it for 30 minutes, and then I was like, I'm gonna wait. This is too jittery. I'm not in the mood for this. I already hear that they were gonna be patching it. I know that there was a recent patch for the dead zone in the controls. I was like, I'm not in the mood for this because I'm busy trying other stuff, but you have been playing it. So
I
tell
have.
me, are you liking it?
I kept it quiet to even Alejandro because all I have had time for was like 2, 3-ish hours maybe to touch it every once in a while, and sometimes it's just running around and collecting something, and then that's about it. But man, I have been really obsessed with this game because there's something about the blend of realism and the silliness, for lack of a better word. Like the game doesn't take itself too seriously, even if you're looking around at it and think that it's going to be very serious. I understand now how some people were saying, "Oh, Tarkov is just multiplayer stalker,"
Mm-hmm.
and how there is a lot to it. Even in the like character and choice departments, there's actual factions that have consequences for choosing which side to be on. There's different areas that are controlled by different regions and different leaders. You can assassinate one or the other right now where I am, and I'm trying to decide what to do. There's like no hand holding at all, and I'm starting to hate that word, but it really does apply here because they will let you fail, they'll let you screw yourself over, but at the same time there's a lot of stuff that is, I would consider, quality of life and against the realism side, where you have a stash in every major place. It's the same little orange chest, and that storage transfers from one place to the next, so it's really easy to get access to what you have and what you need. um, you have like obviously I mentioned it, you can reload, it doesn't waste any of your bullets, which is not something that a lot of realism games do.
Yeah.
You can very quickly load up on a ton of stuff, and there's a whole button that is dedicated to just unloading the guns that you picked up in case they're pieces of junk and you don't want them. So you don't waste your time doing that. Even if you walk up to the gun on the ground, you don't have to pick it up into your inventory and do all that. You just hold the button, it takes the ammo out of it, and you move on with your life. It's very easy to do that. I mean, there's even a take all button when you open up inventory for anything. It's shockingly, like, I can see how it's so boiled down to exactly what people want out of it, which is cut down on the looting process and get back to the fun, which is walking around all the weird anomalies, going through this world that is extremely immersive, and you will just get lost for hours, going from house to house, mill simming your way, checking every corner and doing all this stuff, and then you miss one of them and there's a guy behind the door and he'll just blow your head off. It frankly, that never really happens, but you will walk over trip wires with grenades every once in a while. You'll walk into anomalies which are strategically placed like outside of a door or a window sometimes, just to make sure that you're still paying attention, which all have very clear auditory and visual cues. It's just when you're in a rush and when you're being stupid, you'll get slapped in the face, and that's like really the point, is if you're paying attention you'll be fine. If you're not, it will punish you. But there's also so much to do and see. I've played 20 hours, like really closer to about 18, but I can see myself continuing to play this game. I've only unlocked 2.5 of the regions out of like 8, at least maybe 10. I haven't actually counted them, but there's a lot to do. The gameplay that I've seen of like late game is like a different game entirely, because right now it's like dudes that look homeless and bandits and little dogs and stuff. And in the region that this other dude I was watching, there were zombies with guns. Some of the characters had exosuits, like they were in Edge of Tomorrow. There was like these psi controller, like Mass Effect 2 style enemies that'll like mess with your head, and you see fake enemies and stuff. And of course you go to Pripyat, where the infamous Call of Duty 4 mission happened, and there's an Easter egg where a sniper rifle is placed exactly in the building that
Really?
there. Yeah. And it's
Where Bryce and
supposedly
Macmillan were like snipe out the Sakaya.
exactly it. And you can see exactly where they shot at in the building, which is a real building. And supposedly when you're climbing the stairs there, it plays a little ditty of the soundtrack for Call of Duty 4 right there for a second.
Huh.
Just there's a bunch of like even Red Dead 2 style like Easter eggs. Somebody was walking around and like at night there was this disco light playing out of one of the buildings, and they got close and it turned off all of a sudden. It's like all sorts of crazy weird stuff, and it all makes sense, but it just lends itself to how well they crafted this world. Now obviously the performance issues are a little difficult, but I'm on Series S, which has a locked 30 frames per second, made it more stable, and I've honestly only had about visual issues, and every once in a while, like one time I couldn't sprint, and it eventually came back and I was fine, but for the most part, it was just a lot of fun, and I can't wait to keep playing it. But yeah, that's everything that I've been playing.
Yeah, I realized that right now I am not in the shooter mode like at all in the slightest, like or anything, just that kind of first person, which is interesting considering Indiana Jones is like coming soon, and that's also first person. But I was just not feeling it. I was like, when I started, I was like, this is not my. I'm just not feeling like wanting to play a shooter right now. I just want to keep looking at the people. So
you've been on a huge JRPG kick for the last year, so,
yeah,
that doesn't surprise me.
Exactly. So I feel like it's gonna be a while before I kind of like shake that off, because right now all that I've been doing is I finally got my PS5 Pro. It arrived last week. My sister brought it, and like one would do when you get a new console, you start being like, let me try this, let me try this, let me try this, and now let me try this. I've been doing that with so many games just to kind of see like if I could like notice like improvements or not, and it's definitely been like a 70-30 like percent ratio. Like, yeah, I'm noticing I'm noticing this looks better, I'm noticing this looks slightly better, I'm noticing no improvements whatsoever, and in just a few points I'm noticing when it looks worse than on the base than on the base PS5, because I still have my the slim that I bought when that's what's funny, you were not here and we didn't talk about like publicly when my console died, which is so funny. when I was going through that Dragon Quest 3 like review process and all that, I still have that slim, and I'm thankful I still keep my slim there, because there are still some games that are only enabled on the pro mode without even like a quality mode or anything, that I'm like, I wish you had let me do that pro mode. Like for example, Star Wars Outlaws, that is pro, that's pro enhanced.
Yeah.
The planet that's not lush based, like anything like that first desert savannah, I don't remember the name of that planet. It's like when you're there in the pro, it looks hideous because of the shimmering of their new technology that is like upscaling. It's not working properly from like a low resolution when it comes to glass, so it looks like there's like a blur sheen that keeps like flickering in and out when you're like moving quick, that I'm noticing, that I'm like, I don't remember it being like this. But then everything outside that looks better. Kale looks better, the characters look better, it runs even smoother and all that. So it's kind of that Silent Hill 2 the remake, that also has like some shimmering issues in like specific like places that reminded me a bit of Alan Wake 2 when you were like in the bathroom, that was like so bright, and then you start like seeing shimmering. If there was like a shadow that was like creating this weird cascade, that I was like, why does this not look clean? It's in a few games where I'm seeing that problem in the pro, and I'm like, yeah, this is definitely they created new technology, they're using new technology. This is like retroactively making games released before this console was released, trying to make them work with this technology, and those things are kind of like hit and miss, because like these games were not made with the pro in mind. They're trying to like retroactively work, so it's gonna be like mixed signals when it comes to that. But then like Spider-Man, the 3 Spider-Man games, somehow look better. Like these are in the more subtle way, but it's so funny that they even allow you to kind of put this is the fidelity mode of like the old console. We don't recommend it. The verbiage is there, like the verbiage is there because the new Pro mode is like you can basically get the fidelity mode, like the actual fidelity mode, not like what they did with the performance ray tracing. That is like, it looked really great,
Yeah.
but they had to nip and tuck to make it look to make it work, like crowd densities and things like that to make that and lowering the resolution. That depending on where you were, like depending if you were like on a massive TV that's right in front of you or in a smaller one, that lower resolution didn't matter because of the reflections and all of that. And now in the pros, like the reflections are even stronger and it looks extra sharp, and even the crowds are like more packed and the lighting looks even poppier. Another game that improved on that, like in subtle ways, but you can really tell it, was Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Another game that I tried, I was like, yeah, it's like this is subtle, but it's like it feels like there's more pop to things. Another game, because we've been playing it a lot right now, Fortnite. There is a difference between like Fortnite on base PS5 and on PS5 Pro.
Really?
Yes, because it's just way sharper. Like in the distance, you can make more distance, and it has more of a pop. Whereas when you go back to the base PS5, even though it's a cartoony game, there's kind of like this blur sheen. It's like a small sheen. It's like when you like put like you get like a cloth and put it, and there's kind of like that little mud that was always there, but because you've seen something sharper going back to it, you're like, yeah, I can kind of see it. It's like again, very subtle. That's the thing, kind of like with the Pro, is that a lot of these things are like, we have reached the point of nitpicking in many of these areas.
I think that's where I am with even buying it myself. Besides like performance and improvement and like loading and speed and stability is always a good thing, but when we're going back and forth on like the tiniest details of visual cues, and if anything, the biggest thing that you would notice is that going back from it, everything feels worse. It's almost like, well, you're just ruining yourself on everything else. Like, that's, I think, why I stopped caring so much about, even when I can see all of the improvements on like my big TV, or if I'm right in front of my good monitor, I still don't want to like make it too nice, because all it's going to do is take away my enjoyment of the not so nice. Even if it's like, I'm going to take this new information, and that's always a good thing, but maybe it's not in this case.
Yeah, and the thing is that there are other spots where it's like the improvements are night and day. Obviously, the big one, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, night and day difference in its performance mode. It's like, in fact, the performance mode that they added, they call it versatility mode. It's even prettier than the graphic quality mode. That's how much of like a jump is. So even if you put it like on the 4K 30, the texture quality is even lower in that one. It looks like blurrier in the 4K mode compared to the versatility mode that's using the PSSR technology to make things even sharper, like hard. So you're like, ooh. I remember when I first like popped it in, because I loaded in my save in column, like it's like chapter 2. Like immediately I was like this. I was like, holy crap, that's a lot of sharpness. And what's even funnier is if you the game allows you to put the other performance modes, the old ones, for you to compare. Even those modes look slightly better, like compared to like how they were like in the base PS5. Because I remember I first saw it watching a stream from Maximilian, dude, when he was playing like the intro when you're walking through Nibelheim, and it was like, look at this, chat, and now let's put the older mode so you can see what we had to suffer if you wanted to play in 60. And he put it, and he was like, am I crazy, chat, or is this better? Because it's like, I don't remember it looking this blurry, and it's because that mode used dynamic resolution, and when it was like outside in the open world, that dynamic resolution went lower, so it made like the upscaling feel blurrier, and made everything feel like it had like a blur tint throughout. But that's just when you were in the open world. Like if you're playing on performance mode and you were like in the dungeons or doing the linear missions, or you were like at the gold solid, like if it was enclosure, the game looked fine in performance mode. Like, and because it ran so well, it's like you have to know, it's like I'm trading like graphic beauty for a game that performs really well, compared to Final Fantasy 16 that did not perform well in the performance mode. It was very jittery in exploration and only got stable when you were like in combat. Final Fantasy 16 is another game that I tried on the Pro. That didn't get a Pro enhancement, but while you're like moving around, the performance mode is less jittery. There's still a few hitches that happen here and there, but it's not as obvious. And that game used to lower its resolution, that you notice it more if you were on a bigger TV as soon as you got into combat, because they were like, if we're gonna make this game a stable 60s only when you're like in combat. not when you're exploring. So now that the dynamic resolution feels like it's higher, so it doesn't. It feels like it's slightly sharper when you're like in combat if you're playing on performance mode. So even those kind of games are kind of getting like improvements. Another game like Final Fantasy VII Remake, that game also used dynamic resolution. That during nighttime, you could that would be like insert panning. It is the same picture. During daytime, in chapter 3, one like the daytime in Remake, that's when you start noticing, oh yeah, the dynamic resolution of this thing is like hovering more higher this time. It looks less shimmery, and because that was the times where Remake would look uglier. If it was not nighttime, it was like there's something weird about the visuals here, considering how good this thing looks during nighttime, that it looks so impossibly good because they were hiding so much. It's been like an interesting thought experiment. The game that I was not expecting to be so sucked in because it actually was an improvement was a PS4 game, because this thing has a PS4 enhancement option, and that was Final Fantasy 15, which I had been like playing recently because I was kind of like itching and still like living in Final Fantasy land, and kind of like I had never done a full side quest run on that game. I had always beelined it before because I was always like trying to play other stuff. This was the first time I want to play it like how it is. Like I'm gonna do all like the partner side quests that you can do when you camp, and then someone was like, "Hey, come with me, let's go fish," or let's go take some pictures or things like that, or just kind of like be more immersed in the world. I got to play that on the base PS5 and then immediately switched to the PS5 Pro, and that's one where games from 2013 and 2016 that released around the time the PS4 Pro came out or before the PS4 Pro came out, when there was like a lot of these games were 1080p, those games are gaining a lot with like what the PS5 Pro is doing, because like it's upscaling it in a way that you're like, wow, this actually does look cleaner and prettier than I was expecting, especially for a game like Final Fantasy 15 that it felt like a game being carried by duct tape. That was like being just held together by duct tape.
Oh, it really did.
Yeah, and I was like, oh wow, they actually did, especially if you put the graphics mode of this that they added for the PS4 Pro. That, by the way, if you play 15 and put it in the graphics mode, it's unplayable. It's literally unplayable. It's like it does not run. It did not run. But on the PS5 Pro, if you put the high mode when you have like this enhancement on it finally runs at like a stable 30, and you look that game like with the pristine quality of a high resolution. During the 1080p mode, which is the performance mode, it looks sharper thanks to the upscaler, so it's even better in that way. But it's like, wow, it took until the PS5 Pro for a PlayStation console to have a really pristine or as close to pristine looking version of this game that has so much ambition that was unrealized because of its 10-year development cycle. That was like pretty impressive. I recently finished that playthrough again. I sent you pictures. Like I love doing the screenshotting the end of that game. That's always, man, that game always hits in that ending.
It is just devastating in so many ways.
Yes.
There's few games that have made me really tear up like
yes, and that one still does. Like it's like that game is just so, I call it, it's such a beautiful clusterfuck of a game. It's so messy in so many, it's so messy and bad in such obvious ways, but holds its heart in its sleeve like so severely and nails friendship better than most games like manages to do that, like really nailing it being a road trip. Like it is a literal road trip. You're with your bodies like through thick and thin, and it's just the four of them all the time. And it's like there's just something that you really become so endeared with, like that cast of characters, that the underdeveloped side characters that never get their due, like in the sides, and the story that's kind of like patched together through the movie, the anime, the commercial, the demo that released around the time they released the release date trailer from like April that day, that kind of like said like the background of Noctis and his relationship with his dad, the 3 DLC packs, the improved chapter 13 from like later, the episode art. Is like there's just so it's such a like duct tape together game that is like, I'm surprised that despite that, like it's objectively bad when you look at it that way, yet I love it so much. I love that game so freaking
much. It goes to show how strong it is to have a solid vision, even if it's an imperfect one, because emotion is sometimes opposite of logic. Logically doesn't make any sense, and there's a lot of issues with it, but it still hits so hard regardless.
Yeah, I would love if they could remake it. I would love if they could like someone come in and be like, let's do it clean. Maybe let's put the Final Fantasy 16 combat system instead of this one. This hold circle to attack, and then like hold square to do like the block and parry, and then hold triangle to do the thing. I just picture kind of like this idea of like the combat we got in 16 being put in the world of 15. That is so much cooler. The final the fantasy based on reality thing that they do is like, I had not realized how much that aesthetic really hits for me, like so well. And like even in comparison, like, there's so much of 7 that you can see in 15, even just further modernized, because 7 has kind of like that 1997 kind of like weirdness to it that still kind of like have some like normal and more grounded stuff, whereas 15 is like super modern but also goes even more esoteric with the whole like with the demons and all that, and like the astrals and things like that. It's like 7 doesn't feel as religious, let's just say. Like there's more kind of like a religious undertone to 15, and like the summoning of the kings, the astral kings and all that, compared to like 7 that's a little bit more modern, like
I just think it's like
retrofuturist.
Retrofuturist. The 15 is definitely the case of like what if we modernized Final Fantasy 14 or something. It's like we took the most honestly that's not even a good example of it, but if we took the most high fantasy setting and then said, all right, now 2,000 years later, what would that look like? And I am obsessed with that aesthetic, honestly. I feel like not enough stuff does it, because every time something does, people think it's just the same thing. It's like, oh, they just stole this idea. It's like, man, we got to get more of that like modern day weird fantasy stuff. Like, what would it look like if magic powered cars and stuff? Like, that sounds really cool. So yeah, I mean, it's just from the start, it's such a great concept. But I do hope that one day we get to either revisit that world, some kind of crazy remake of some kind. I don't know, but man.
Yeah, it's like, I know there's bad stigma around 15 because it was a 10-year development project. Like I was in 6th grade.
Yeah, I mean, we're in theory going to live the next like 30 something years. Maybe we'll get that crazy remake of all of the Final Fantasy games one day.
Yes, they're slowly kind of like trickling them together. There's supposedly that Final Fantasy 9 remake that has been like in the rumor mill for like freaking forever. I would love an 8th remake because that game has a cool idea, but its systems are so clunky. That game has such clunk to it, like it's systemic wise, but it has really cool characters. I really love that sword gun that Squall has in that game. There's like in 8. So I'm like, yeah, it's like that would be ripe for a great remake if they could ever do it. Obviously, the remaster looks great compared like because it's a PS1 game, but yeah, 15 is like it felt really good revisiting it, seeing that the PS5 Pro made it work, like it made it prettier. Another game that looked prettier, Uncharted 1, and from the PS4 collection. It was like, wow, this looks even like cleaner. So it's like, it's all those games from that era. Like if you have like a 2013, 2014, or 2015 game that you're like wishing to revisit, it's like the Pro, like those are the games that are like, yeah, these games were too early for a Pro patch. So it was like, let's see if we can like brute force something. Bloodborne I haven't tried. I heard that that's one that's like, that is the most insert Chang be like, I know there's some slightly difference here, but it's like it's very minuscule. It's like, it's still like Bloodborne is still the perpetual, like everyone wants it. Everyone wants Bloodborne. Everyone wants like a modern version of Bloodborne, and there's still like no way to get that thing running higher than 30 frames, and it's like weird frame pacing issues and things like that. But so far, I've been enjoying like what I've been getting out of the Pro. Like I've been like intentionally not started a 4th playthrough of Rebirth like completely, like from start to finish, just to kind of give myself time to test all these other games that I want to keep testing, because I have so much.
Yeah, because you don't need to get all up in the again.
I know, even though I want to, because it just looks so good. It's like Rebirth is the one that I was actually upset how good it looked, because I'm like, damn it, it's like the allure of this world looking this pretty. It's like that's the only time that I feel like I got a generational leap. Do you remember the first time you finally got to see like a switch PS4 to PS5 and see like the actual difference of running at 60 frames and all that compared to like PS4? That's how I felt with Rebirth. It's like, it's wild. That's like the only game that happens. And then like a game like Stellar Blade, it looked great, but that's the one that some of the improvements they did looked even better. Like my only biggest disappointment right now is Rise of the Ronin. I feel that game looks worse on the Pro. Somehow it's like it's muddier. I was like, something went wrong here. So, but it's like it's new technology, so I have to understand that when you the same thing happened with the PS4 Pro. A lot of games that arrived around the time that got patched were running worse on the Pro than the base PS4. I remember reading that back then in 2016 and be like, ah. I was like, I did a good thing I didn't buy that because I'm here with my base machine and I don't have to worry. And back then I didn't have a 4K TV, and that was kind of like the big selling point of that one. This one is my pitch for the Pro is: do you like playing at 60 frames? Do you like how it looks? If your answer is yes, I'm like, don't buy a Pro. If your answer is no, then I'm like, okay, would $700 be worth it for you to make a game look better at 60 frames? That's kind of like the checklist that I would go to kind of recommend the Pro, because right now only Reverse is the only one that's like night and day. It's like night and day the difference, like immense. Because then the other ones are like, we're getting into that kind of like more. It's definitely better, I can see it, and that's being PC gaming for many people. It's like, yeah, it's definitely slightly better. It's like leaps are always gonna be better. So for me, in my case, in my TV, I was like, I cannot keep doing performance modes here because like it keeps getting blurry. Paul, Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 has the quality mode look at 60 frames. Yes. Just kind of give you like an idea. A game that you actually went for the quality mode because you could see the detail better there compared to like how blurry it got on the 60 frames mode. So it's kind of like that. So that is also. I'm hoping, because they priced it so high, and especially right now with a certain Orange Man president like wanting to tariff the hell out of people, I want to see like if they raise the price even more if for some reason that gets hit with tariffs, or if they give themselves enough wiggle room that then they were gonna be like, no, we could maybe shave off $100 for this thing, because for people that saw the innards of the Pro, they were like, this realistically should have cost $600. They just went higher because they wanted to make a higher margin, and it's so because they're in their Apple mode, which that means, oh yeah, we're gonna upcharge because our products have that pristine quality to them, or they feel pristine for people that they want to like spend more money. It's kind of like, I don't know how Apple ever psychologically tricked people to be like, yeah, we price it a certain way and you're still gonna buy it, because that's how like premium our products feel, like for the Celestials of the world. So that's how they got it. So I'm like, for me, it's been worth it. I also understand the price that I paid for it too. So it's like, just remember that checklist. Just if you play at 60 frames, if you're still playing in fidelity mode, don't even bother. The PS5 is fine. Like PS5 is perfectly fine and it's working there. It's just higher frame rate. You want higher frame rates and things looking good. Unless it's first party stuff, you're slowly more and more are gonna start seeing problems. You know, another game that I was like, thank God I bought the Pro for whenever this comes in. Monster Hunter Wilds had a horrendous performance mode in the beta. Like absolutely horrendous. Blurry up the wazoo, and they're running at 40 frames, at 45 frames, so it looked very jittery. It looked great in fidelity mode. So we're gonna hit that point in the generation where you may have to start settling again to 30 if you're still like on base. So keep that in mind. Like, I'm also of the mind that playing at 30 is still perfectly fine. I've just gotten so used to 60 now.
And I'm just glad that, like, man, if my bar is so low that Stalker 2 is just still a great experience for me, I am A-okay with
you're fine. Yeah, you're fine. I feel like if you hold on maybe 4 more years, you'll be able to kind of like then jump to PS6. And just how it was with me, like I didn't see any PS4 Pro enhancement during my lifetime. Like I kept it with my base PS4. I didn't buy a 4K TV until a year after I got my PS5. So it's like,
I'm just hoping that it doesn't die on me like my PS4 did.
Yes.
Like a year before the next one came out or something.
Oh wait, that latest one your base?
It was PS4? I had like maybe a year or two. I don't remember which.
So 2018.
Probably. I don't even remember what year it was. It was before I met y'all, so
2018 then.
Yeah, because I would have mentioned it in the chat if it happened when I knew y'all.
Yeah, you already had a Pro when I met you in 2019.
Okay, yeah. So it would have
I
happened
remember.
either right before in 2019 or during 2018. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Somehow my PS4 is still alive. It outlasted my fat OG PS, my digital OG PS5 that got killed in a power surge thanks to Ethernet cable, which is the wildest thing that has ever happened to me. But I definitely feel like I got more use of my PS5 in those 3 years than I did the early days of the PS4 because I was in college back then. So, and we didn't do a show. So I feel more engaged. I feel like I squeezed the juice more out of that thing. But good thing is I have two PS5s now. My Slim is out there in the living room, and it looks great because my TV is at a perfectly reasonable distance. I was like literally testing. It's like, yeah, it's like for this distance, this works fine here. For the Pro, this looks great here. So I've set myself up well there for at least for the future. And I need to keep my base PS5 because if I'm gonna keep reviewing games, I'm gonna be reviewing them on the base. Why? Because that's what the majority has, and I need to be. I need to tell like the majority. They're like, I will have to like check both versions like whenever I do reviews going forward, because it's like few people will want to know how this thing runs, and another few people, or the majority, then will want to say, hey, will this work in my base machine? Like, thankfully for PS4, the only time that didn't work was Cyberpunk, and by then the next gen had already started because a lot of people were very afraid when the PS4 Pro started. It was like, oh, you base PS4 owners, you're screwed. Like they already, yeah, and it didn't happen. It's like you could like ride that baby into the sunset, like and PS4 still work. So that's all that I've been playing, Paul, because I've just been like not really committing other than Final Fantasy 15 because I'm just a Final Fantasy sicko now. It's award season. Last week, the nominees had come out for the Game Awards. This is gonna happen later because we both played the game and we're gonna play the game to see who guessed right and why we decided on things. Because last week, for people to listen last week's a very meaty episode, like me, Joe LaRussa, and Sebastian are kind of like we're giving our kind of like predictions of where we thought the panel was gonna go in certain ways. But this time here with Paul, we're not thinking panel. We're like we're gonna bet. But before we do that, the Golden Joysticks also happened. They happened last Thursday. So Golden Joysticks, for people that don't know, is this like long-running British show that usually kicks off a award season, and that tends to sometimes give you an idea what games are like where things are leaning slightly. Like when it comes to like game of the year, even though the Golden Joystick, like 90% of the winners here are all fan voted. So for everyone that's like this is the show for the gamers because this is like they have the final say except in one category, which is the Critics' Choice Award there. And I would say it's like I feel I like that idea because it's like unlike a certain award show that mixes everything together. I like how they laid it out during like the Golden Joysticks Awards, and I kind of want to read where things kind of lean there. So I'm gonna read us the full list of the winners in each category as it follows according to Games Radar, who hosts the Golden Joysticks Award. And by the way, like you should go see some of the highlight reels of that show. Like Ben Starr was the MC. He was a great host for this show. So the best audio design went to Astrobot. The best soundtrack, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Understood.
Yes. Best storytelling, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Question mark. There.
That one can be.
It depends because I feel
like about that one.
Yeah, it's like I don't think it tells a great main plot line, but it tells great individual stories.
It tells a great emotional storyline and through line, but not a satisfying one.
Yes, that's what's so funny. That was a funny one with that one, but I feel like I had this conversation with Hogue in episode. It was like I feel a lot of people, if the stories they tell of your characters is good enough, I feel that's why a lot of people like tend to forget if a main plot is not.
I see why, but I definitely don't agree with it. I didn't even play most of the games that would win this, and I know that this shouldn't be there. But yeah, let's keep going.
Yes, best multiplayer game, Helldivers 2.
That's just no brainer.
Best
you
visual
can't break the internet with that.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, best visual design, Black Myth Wukong. You just have to start the beginning of that game to see that
I understand.
Yeah. That has great visual design, like in art design, and like in high tech, you're Unreal Engine 5, like high visual quality. It's like I get it there. So best indie game, Balatro. I bought Balatro on my phone. I played it for a little bit.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. Like, I get it. I totally get it. So, best indie game self-published. By the way, I appreciated that they did this because you have your indie games that come with backing, and then you got your indie games like
you don't have your giant Xbox or PlayStation sponsored indie game.
Exactly, and it's like it's all based on your self-publishing it, and like, see, what was your game, Paul? Sea of Choices.
Sea of Choices, yeah.
Yeah, that would have been here, like in self-published. It had been so it's like I'm glad that they at least did that because they literally were like, there's so many indie games, we need to give more spotlight. And I'm like, yes, thank you, because that feels more respectful. Another Crab's Treasure. That's the Souls-like crab game, or the Crab Souls. Yeah, you can play that on Game Pass right now. Studio of the Year, Team Asobi from Astrobot. They did it. They are a 65-member team that made a Mario-like.
They crushed it.
So, best lead performer, Cody Christian, which is Cloud from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Best supporting performer, Brianna White, Aerith from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and she went to the. Good. She received her award, and she was like, she did a great speech.
Wholesome person. I saw some of the recent posts after liking, I think, the post where she won, and it's just like she's does wholesome. Like the randomest stuff, and it's just precious.
Yeah, she's wholesome. It's like she's a wholesome person that her wholesomeness, like it's like you see it all over Rebirth.
It's infectious.
Breakthrough Award, Critics' Choice. So basically, this is like a critics pick of like a game that broke through, like in 12 months that everyone was like talking about, and all of that in the critics circles, and that was Balatro.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so
I like the idea. I feel like that can be very subjective and like what could be brought up. It's like whatever they think could be there, but I mean, at the same time, Balatro just freaking destroyed everything for a while.
Oh yeah, I know Breakthrough like 3 years ago was It Takes Two. That's another one that I was like the breakthrough that when you hear about the critics, they won't shut up about a specific game. I feel that's
when you hear about random regular people that don't really play a lot of games talk about it, that's not related to like your Call of Duties and stuff that you expect everyone to know about.
Like it was with Elden Ring. That was Breakthrough Award.
Yeah, that was definitely a breakthrough.
Still Playing Award for console and PC got to Minecraft. I love that the live service category, they just call it Still Playing.
That's cute. I like that.
Yes, and then for mobile, the Still Playing Award, Honkai Star Rail. A lot of people love that.
People will not shut up about it.
Yes. PC Game of the Year went to Satisfactory. This like a factory building game that Travis
first person view.
Yeah, Travis reviewed it. He gave it a 9, so I was like, yeah, that sounds right. If this one, because I heard him rave excessively that he played thousands of hours for that.
It's an obsessive game, I'm told, and if I had a PC, it would be either this or Factorio. I would be all over.
Yeah. Console Game of the Year, Helldivers 2.
Good.
Yes. Most Wanted Game, GTA 6.
And that was gonna win.
Given.
There was no way.
Yeah, that's literally the most anticipated game of all time at this point. Critics' Choice Awards. So this is the one that they picked, like actual critics from the UK. Helldivers 2. So, best game expansion, Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erdtree. It's so hard, right, Paul, to like to create a category for expansion. Right?
All right, I'm gonna say we're not gonna go into that.
I know,
but yes, it is very easy to just create a game expansion award and drop it in right there.
Yes, best gaming hardware, Steam Deck OLED. Easy. I've heard excellent stuff about the OLED of the Steam Deck. So
just the versatility of the Steam Deck blows my mind. It has just concept for it, but like, what do you mean I can have everything in Steam in my hands?
Everything.
It's crazy. I cannot. Part of me does not believe it's real until one day I have the magical money to actually get one, and then I download something crazy that's only on PC, and I'm like.
No, Paul, literally, especially because you can also download like the PS app for like remote play. I've heard I've heard the Steam Deck legit is like the best parenthood like device, like literally because of the hold baby together, play something here while you're
maybe it's a good thing that I don't have money right now because I would have bought that by now.
Yeah. Yeah. Best early access game, Lethal Company. Yeah, that makes sense. I've heard a lot about Lethal Company in early access. Best game trailer, Helldivers 2. I would say they did sell that game. At least like the tone
Yeah.
of the for democracy and all of that was like portrayed really well in their launch trailer for Helldivers 2. That's like
That's true, because I was seeing that in some surprising places. That was on like network TV at times here and there, so it's good for them.
They sold the Starship Troopers, kind of like a
Very well.
fantasy there. That's why how they got guns from our clan, from our Destiny 2 clan. It was like through those trailers, and on top of that, good word of mouth. So makes sense for that being winning there. Streamers Choice Award. They actually went to Twitch streamers, and they were like, "Oh yeah, all you gather together and pick a game," and they picked this game called Chain Together.
Of course they would.
Yes.
That is the streamer game.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Best game adaptation, Fallout. Makes sense. Because unlike Arcane is not adapting. That's the thing. Arcane is not a game adaptation. That's just like in-universe like show. So.
A video game.
Yeah. And then the final one, the ultimate game of the year. This was 100% fan voted. And when you think about it that way.
Actually, wait 1 second before we did that. I don't know if Fallout's actually an adaptation either, because it's not adapting any of the games. It's a completely new storyline with new characters.
Yeah. But it's adapting, it's adapting its universe so like exactly like in tone. And
like I get it, but I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't add up for a second. But it's just
there is no put it like this: there is a Fallout game, there is no Arcane video game.
Okay.
You just know, it's in the League of Legends universe. But
it's funny how few people, even though it has that in the subtitle, don't realize that it's part of a game.
Yeah.
I talked to somebody at work today who heard about Arcane, and it was like, "Oh, it's part of a video game. What's that about?" And I was like, "Just don't. It's okay. Just don't worry about it."
Yeah. And then the biggest LOL of it all, the ultimate game of the year. So this is entirely fan voted. So this one's the popularity contest one. Black Myth Wukong won ultimate game of the year at the Golden Joysticks, and Rebirth was number 2 in the vote, which makes sense because Final Fantasy fans are like forever bad.
Oh my gosh, they're almost as bad as like anime fans are for Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. That's a whole thing in a completely different industry. Some people will catch that one.
And yes, and not only that, like I feel specifically Final Fantasy 7 fans are like the loudest of that of that fan base. But Black Myth Wukong winning here in just a fan vote makes sense. That game had 20 million players, and this game, like, it's champion outside the review circles that did not think highly of this game. I mean, as highly as an 81, on like on Metacritic. So it's like an 80 game, but that's the thing. Like, I wouldn't even go lower. I don't like Black Myth Wukong, so I loathed when I saw it. But I was like, oh yeah, who voted on this? Yeah, this is fully fan. If anything's gonna have like a fan vote it's just decided on that, I think Black Myth Wukong already won it by default, because for some reason people really love this game. And
I can't lie. If my home, I mean, I don't think it applies to us in America right now, but if my home country finally got a super huge budget game about like the favorite character of that storyline, I can't even think of anything in, like, I don't know if maybe Paul Bunyan was like a super huge superhero like character for Americans or something.
Children's Progress,
the Johnny Appleseed video game where you kill the other pantheon. I don't know.
Man.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, Journey to the West is so huge for China that like seeing Sun Wukong like that is probably like, oh, that's my dude. I mean, just the fact that that crazy China versus Japan soccer match,
and Wukong and Goku.
It was Sun Wukong and Goku facing off. I was like, it makes perfect sense. That's perfect. I love this.
Yeah, put it like this: China has never had a game of this caliber in single player, like, ever.
Right.
They've been known for gachas. They've been known for League of Legends. But a lot of people play League of Legends there and things like that. So Black Myth was like a breakthrough single player from China, like game from China. So it makes sense because it was made in house in country. That's why like a lot of Chinese people like really
represented.
Yes,
it wasn't attached to some really insane pyramid scheme for gambling. So
it was just
I guess even more people loved it.
Yeah, it was just a game. And out of its 20 million players that it sold through, 19 million of them were from China. Just to give you an idea.
Oh my gosh, that's
so that's why, like, if you have a fan vote, just put it to the bank. Black Myth Wukong's kind of review. So in this case, the critics have to kind of like put a stamp on. They have to kind of have to like close the wall if they want something else to like win in vote, basically. Because for example, in the Game Awards, we're gonna talk about kind of like our cards. That's like 10% of the sway is fans, and then 90% is critics. So that's how that's how they set it up there. So yeah, that was the Golden Joysticks. I got to watch the entire show. It was 2 hours, no weird ad-driven nonsense. There was they did a couple indie announcements in there, including a game called I Am Cat that Ben Starr would not shut up over when it was revealed. He kept mentioning I Am Cat the entire time. You can wishlist it over on Steam, but developers got treated with respect. It was all about them. It was like smooth. There was like no tangents of
wrap it up.
Yes, no wrap it up thing. It was like a tight 2 hours. It was like for everyone that complained how the Game Awards went last year, kind of like as a show, as a presentation of a show. I feel like you can find like what you want in other shows and try elevating those. There's a reason this has been going for 42 years. This is the 42nd Golden Joysticks. So this has been going for a while. So that's
Golly,
like,
I forget just how long those have been going.
Yes, so it's like it is that long. So it's like it's much longer than the Game Awards. The Game Awards just happen to be kind of like the modern, new bougie, high budget award show that's more akin to the Teen Choice Awards or like the or MTV Awards. But now, because I already went on my entire spiel about how the Game Awards has become the Farce Awards, and more of you can go read my editorial where I make the argument that this should be renamed the Winter Gaming Showcase, or like the Winter Games Showcase, kind of like Summer Games Fest. So because it's like everyone's more excited about the trailers. I'm excited for the trailers that may be there about it. Now for the game, Paul, because I like playing this game at the very least, just for like fun bets. Yeah. I'm gonna overlay this in post so people can kind of like see it, like see the images. One thing that I like that they've done now is that you can go vote at the Game Awards, kind of like at the Game Awards like website, and then you can like create a card where you can have kind of like an all-in-one, like what were your picks, so you can easily kind of keep track of if you went there or you didn't. So Paul, you did it. I learned it through you. I was like, I got a card. So, I'm definitely doing that. So
I would suggest we just skip the content creator and esports
yes.
part. Okay, cool.
Yeah, because those literally were just my throwing darts. So
how about we work our way up from the bottom?
Yes, we're gonna go bottom to end with game of the year at the top.
Cool. That's
awesome. So for most anticipated game, I picked Grand Theft Auto 6.
It was a given for that one because I mean we've been waiting for that for so long. Personally, I had spent a lot of time on GTA Online, specifically the races. I am a wonderful racing person.
Yes.
Because if you accidentally say that incorrectly, you get really thrown off internet circles.
Yeah.
But yeah, Death Stranding 2 was my second closest, and it was just like it's not a fair comparison, honestly.
Yeah, Monster Hunter Wilds was also there, and Ghost of Yotei were also there. That one to me was like GTA is just that big that it's like that's gonna win. So it's like
just gotta.
Yeah, even though I'm personally more excited for Death Stranding 2 because it's just I'm more of a Kojima weirdness.
I need some more hope in my life.
Yes. So now the best gaming adaptation. For that one, I think we both picked Arcane.
Yep.
And
Arcane is just one of the greatest pieces of animation I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I cannot
stop. It's just quality. Yeah, it's just quality. It's literally just quality there.
The Fallout show is great, but it can't touch this, unfortunately. I mean,
yes.
it's so great.
Yeah.
It's not a competition.
Yeah. For best multiplayer, we both picked Helldivers too.
Of course.
Yeah.
Just like I was saying for the Golden Joysticks, it just broke the internet when it came out. It just only got better and more entertaining, even if it was frustrating. But
yeah,
I just wish that there was some kind of way to play with, like, by yourself with like some computer NPCs or something. But supposedly there was something in the code for that. I'm sure it's just very difficult to balance.
Yes. And then for best sports game, I picked F124 just because I know if just I saw the PS5 Pro, like what they did with that. That's another one of those transformative games. I was like, oh yeah. But then I heard that F124 wasn't very good, so I was like, oh cool, I didn't know it. And then you picked NBA 2K25.
I did.
Yeah, which I've still learned it's not a great version of that.
It's not, but it's so popular that I think it's still gonna win.
Yes, I would say here, college football got robbed. College football 2025 got absolutely robbed.
I can't believe that wasn't.
It reviewed better than all the games that were in that list, and somehow it didn't. It didn't get there. It was like that's straight up robbery. Then for best sim strategy, that had all these weird games that had Kunitsugami, Age of Mythology Retold. We picked Unicorn Overlord. Why
Absolutely.
did I pick? Yeah, I assume we picked it because Unicorn Overlord is one of the best teams of this year, and this didn't get any nod anywhere else. I was like, if this game that reviewed also very highly, sold really well, it's like so unique in the landscape. If it's gonna get its due somehow, I'm hoping it gets it here.
It is some of the most like diverse, capable storytelling with all of the characters that you have, each of them having multiple like plot line conversations with each other. So many ways to build things out. The quality of life to not have to waste your time really fine-tuning everything or you're screwed. It's just so fun, and the art is gorgeous. I'll just stop there.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yes, it's like I wish that I had gotten more nods, because it's like even in the little bit I played, I was like, I'm not right in the mood for this, but gosh, this is excellent. Yeah. And I even got more in the mood after finishing Dragon Quest 3. So I hope it gets it. Though, if we were able to have kind of like, if we wished something else could win here, I would hope it would be Path of the Goddess. Because it's such a unique idea. But I don't think you like that game. So, but
I realize that's a very personal thing, and it shouldn't be taken against the game itself, because for a lot of people that was like their most unique game, and those should be celebrated, even if it was not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I think I like it just in the principle that I like that Capcom took some time to do something so weird and unique, considering like they're in AAA land with their Dragon's Dogmas, with their Monster Hunters, with the Resident Evil remakes and the original Resident Evils, that they were able to carve that out. Because it's like, you're making your money elsewhere, they should give you kind of rope for something like creative, and prove that you can do it. So that's how I would like it, that if Unicorn doesn't win, I would hope that one wins instead of the other ones that were there that I even forgot, other than Age of Mythology Retold. Best family game, we both put Astrobot. I mean,
easy.
It's like
as such, like for Sony especially, is like when there's a small child that wants to play something, now I have something that I can just hand them the controller, instead of like, all right, there's a million caveats for this and there's so many difficult options. Like, we just need to get back to having a good handful of kid-friendly games on every console. That
instead
should
of
not
just
be
Nintendo.
a novelty. Goodness.
Yeah. And Astrobot says, compared to this competition, that Nintendo didn't quite have a strong year this year, so I feel like Astro really cleaned up like on Nintendo's offerings, personally. Even with my problems with Astrobot from a branding and its celebration of a complicated brand at the moment, it's like the quality of that game, it speaks for itself. That's why I was like, yeah, Astrobot I think it's gonna be, and I'm gonna vote for it. For best fighting game, and for this one, you picked Tekken 8, which makes sense because you were so all over Tekken 8 earlier this year. I loved the 2-hour campaign, and that was all that I played. But
campaign was solid.
Yeah, and
I really only picked it because I have a feeling that's going to win. Even though I think overall, I enjoyed myself with Dragon Ball more.
And that was my pick. And here's the thing. Yeah, and here's the thing. The only reason why I'm doing I picked the Dragon Ball was more the popularity of it, because this was another one of those like, holy crap, this broke through. Look how many people were excited for Dragon Ball. Like all the meme videos of everyone playing Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, the TikToks, and literally everything. That then I was like, even though I got filtered by Vegeta, like by grade A Vegeta, and I was like, I'm not like, screw this. I think I use more like the conventionalism, like the popularity of it, more than like it being like a legit fighting game. So
It definitely is not like a good fighting game in the competitive sense, because I don't know if you've seen the memes going around. Not even memes. There's a clip of like a French like actual official tournament, and it was a nightmare to watch because the characters are able to zip up and down, and it breaks the lock on of the other character, and that is completely broken. But there's no way to really fix that because it's baked in that you can just fly. So like, how do you do that unless you just like ban certain characters maybe? But it's competitively, I don't know what it's going to look like. There's a lot of people that say it's an arena fighter. It shouldn't be serious, but that's what people want. If you have Smash Bros in there every year. So yeah, who knows?
That was my pick, and then you picked Tekken. Let's see how it goes. If it was for quality, I would hope Tekken wins it. If it's for like popularity, that's why I'm leaning more for Sparking Zero. As kind of like a token, let's acknowledge a game that was big this year, because some games were pretty recent. Best RPG, I think we both put Metaphor ReFantasio. Yep. Reverse was also here, Infinite Wealth was also here, Dragon's Dogma 2 was also here, and I don't remember what. And Shadow of the Earth was also here. I'm like, for pure turn-based, yeah, it's like, yeah. For just pure RPG-ness, I feel like, for just the pure RPG, I think it's Metaphor. Even I haven't played it. You play more of it than I have, but it's like there's a purity to turn-based, and it being like a full honest JRPG that I feel like in its depth, it's not beaten. I have more fun with Rebirth as a game, but for like strict RPG, I feel it has to be this one. So and that's why I picked it. So same for you.
Yep. Pretty much. Metaphor is such a straight up RPG compared to all of the others, which are like RPG with an asterisk of various kinds, and like each of them are valid. They're each RPGs, but I feel like if you're trying to win best RPG, you need to be the most RPG.
That's Metaphor. Yeah.
And Metaphor is just fantastic.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I like Rebirth more, because I like my action RPGs, but like for this category, it goes here. Best action adventure game that pitted Astrobot next to Prince of Persia, next to Silent Hill 2. But yeah, we're not gonna get like already one on that spiel. Is like I just have to say, Jeff Keighley is to blame for the mental retardation that has happened with the gaming industry that has smushed everything into action adventure when you can have many different categories. And this was the reason why, because there's no reason why Astrobot should be like in best action adventure, but because it's there, both Paul voted for Astrobot for action adventure, and that's a platform.
I mean, it's because it's action adventure, right?
Yeah, it's action adventure. So.
Overall, I don't know. I think I would have picked some of the others, but I just enjoyed Astrobot, I think, the most, like, overall, I guess. This is the one where I could be considered a fake fan for, and I could probably be swayed in another direction.
Yeah, I think
Astrobot's going to win.
Yes, I think because it's such a mess of category. Like a lot of these games need to be there, and it's just not well defined. So I put Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown just hopefully give a nod to a game that came out early this year, but like that gave me the hope for the Ubisoft Renaissance that ended up not happening. But because not because it just didn't end up happening doesn't mean that Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown wasn't great. It was great. So I wanted to give it there, especially because Astrobot had other nominations elsewhere. And then just best action game that also included Call of Duty here. Helldivers 2 is here, and I put Helldivers 2 there as me making up for the fact that Helldivers 2 did not make the game of the year, like the big list. That it's like seeing how the Golden Joysticks went is like that was such a huge mistake of Helldivers 2 not being like at the top, considering like the year that it had. But that's why I put it there as a token because this is supposed to be the Devil May Cry, and like when you hear action games, this is the Devil May Cry style game. Yeah, I know, because it's like they didn't have best shooter. Let's put freaking Call of Duty in there. So it's like so stupid, so whack. Best VR AR game. This is a weird one because we don't have VR. We just kind of have to hear.
I had to guess based on what I've heard, and I heard the most about the Batman thing and saw the fun clips of people just beating the mess out of those dudes. So I was like,
Yeah.
I'll throw that one in. But you picked something different. Why'd you do that?
Yeah, I picked Asgard's Wrath 2 because this is the game that Travis from IGN gave a 10 last year.
Oh,
And it
okay.
came out in December, so it's like I have heard that this is the kid that Asgard's Wrath 2 is the killer app for the MetaQuest. So I was like, just on like critical acclaim alone, and this is critic stuff, I think I might as well in here. I haven't played it, but I heard great things about it. So for best mobile game, I put Balatro. Why? Because I did play it in mobile. So it's like it's perfect for mobile. It's a really addicting card game. And you,
I picked Zenless Zone Zero because I did get to play that, not on mobile, but I see the vision. I like the concept. I like the gameplay loop. The character designs are some of the greatest I've ever seen. Yeah, that's pretty much why.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. And it's a Hoyoverse game, so it's like Hoyoverse has its fans. It's kind of like I was mentioning, when you have a big China backing that tends to like lean into stuff, even though this can be critic lean, but they can be like persuaded. So then for best debut indie game, you picked Balatro, and I picked Pacific Drive, just to kind of throw a bone there to Pacific Drive.
Yeah, I would acknowledge that Pacific Drive is wonderful, but I think that popularity wins out in the end, and I don't think nearly enough people played Pacific Drive, sadly.
Yeah. And then for best independent game, because I did play this a little bit, this again where this is the weird one, how they define the indie scene here is way weirder than how they did it at the Golden Joysticks. In this case, I threw a bone to Neva, the sequel to the other game from the guys that made Grease. I still need to finish Neva, but what I played of that is like I enjoyed Grease a lot. It was a very touching game, considering like when it revealed its hand on what it actually was. That really floored me. I feel Neva's kind of getting there, but in what I play, I don't know if it completely lands there. I've heard it does from people that I trust that reviewed it, so that's why I wanted to give it the nod there. But you gave it to Balatro also, so you basically went like, you guys like, if it's indie, we're gonna give it to Balatro.
Basically because I kind of went on like Balatro just crushed it everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's like I didn't play it myself, but nobody would shut up about it. So that's why I'm thinking it's gonna be up there.
Yeah. For best community support, we both picked Final Fantasy 14.
I learned my lesson last time.
Yes. Basically that. And the things that even though Dawn Trail, the One Piece inspired DLC that started the new era for 14 wasn't that great in comparison to the heights of the later expansions leading into Endwalker from the fans that I heard from. They're still a really tight-knit community, I feel. That's why I picked it. Even though I know that Helldivers community was here too. And I feel they did something fun with how I feel the community management was part of the metagame for Helldivers 2. Though I feel like that game went through some rough patches with the patch, like pun intended, with the patching, that nerd stuff, instead of like making the game less fun and all that kind of like soured the popularity of that game. So that's why I went safe with Final Fantasy 14, just to kind of give it a little bit of a sparkle. And then for best ongoing, you also picked Final Fantasy 14. I didn't pick it myself because I picked Destiny 2, the final shape there.
And see, I don't know if that is the best ongoing.
And here's where it gets complicated for me, because this is the only place where Destiny 2 was like nominated, and I wanted to give the final shape its due, because usually
I think it got its due, and I don't think there's any way, especially everything I've seen after that point, because we're going for like what we think is going to win as well as what we want to win, and it's been very difficult to balance that. I landed more on the what I think is going to win, even if I disagree with it, and you've gone with the we are going to pick what I want.
Yes, in that one. In one that I was like, the final shape reviewed so well. I feel like the critics that vote for this thing are more in tune with the review scene than like the ongoing scene. So that's what I was like, yeah, like this was one of the best review things of the year, like the final shape. I love the final shape. That campaign was excellent. Its final mission, the 12-man mission, incredible moment, emotional moment, the culmination of 10 years. Because it didn't have a best expansion as it should have, even though if they had been like, Elden Ring would have cleaned up. Like in that case, this is where Elden Ring should have honestly been, because here, best ongoing is where Cyberpunk won last year for Phantom Liberty, because they didn't have a best expansion category for some reason. They slotted there. So because Elden Ring wasn't there. I was like, what was the next best thing for me there? Okay, Destiny, and I know at least the reviewers really love this, so that's why I went there. So, and knowing that Dawn 2 is not as beloved, that's why. So, but with ongoing and streaking, Diablo 4 was there, and their expansion was really well received in October, but I don't care about Diablo. So. Yeah, Games for Impact. We both picked Tales of Kanzurasawa. The funny thing about Games for Impact is that this is supposed to be the woke category, kind of like the games with a social meaning or something like that.
Right.
And what's funny is that Tales of Kanzurasawa doesn't really have.
It's just I did it because of the was it the game director?
Abubakar
story.
Salim.
Yeah, because his whole thing and his story was really the reason why I picked that. And what were the other options for this?
Life is Strange Double Exposure, Neva, Ethica, which is the nun game, the horror nun game, and another game I've never heard of.
See, that's where like part of it was just out of I don't really know any of the others. The only one I do is Life is Strange, and I heard mixed things about Double Exposure. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, I know I heard enough good stuff about Kanzurasawa that I want to throw that to him because I don't think he's really featured anywhere else.
Yeah, this is one where I feel like this is another category that exposed the people that pick these things don't give a crap. They don't really don't. It's like they don't really. The rules are just not well defined for what it is. Because Tales of Kanzurasawa, it's not a game that has a social meaning other than an honest depiction of African Americans. Is that social? Is that supposed to be a social meaning? Is that what you want to define it that way?
On the other side of it, as far as the comment on people not caring about it, there's a lot of games here. To these people who probably have full-time jobs in other ways, I can honestly understand how you can not manage to play all of them. In some categories, you just have to throw a few in there.
And so, again, it's just the flow that Keighley, by being so inclusive, it's like, I'm gonna make a panel that's everyone, and they're gonna submit everything. It's like just a melting pot that just doesn't make any sense. Like, you need something, you need a more of an academic, peer-reviewed like panel that picks this. Like, because at least you know that that's like their focus instead of trying to make a melting pot. When you're trying to make a melting pot of everything, it's like that's where it gets messy. But in this case, like Tales of Kanzurasawa is the game I like the most out of the list that was there. I have not finished Neva yet. I did finish Zao, so I was like, yeah, I'll pick it there. And also for Abubakar Salim, I know so many people were making the joke that, well, this one would win because Keighley had Abubakar Salim last year when he revealed that game. So everyone was like, the fix is in. People were making the joke, but yeah, we picked that one. For innovation and accessibility, this is the one that I screwed up because I completely forgot that Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown had great accessibility options. I put Dragon Age of Veilguard, like, just because.
And I knew that was not a good choice because I went through their accessibility options and I was very disappointed by it. Honestly, I forgot most of what was actually available in Prince of Persia, but I knew there was a lot of stuff there, so that's why I picked it.
I heard that after the fact from Sebastian and Ains, my EIC who reviewed the game. He was telling about the accessibility of adding extra platforming for people to complete the platforming challenges that are not like dexterous enough. And I was like, that's actually great accessibility. Why didn't I wish I could have enabled that. I would have made that game even less friction. Like, had less friction of that game. But yeah, I picked Veilguard. This was my mistake pick after learning after the fact because I just didn't remember about because Prince of Persia came out in January, people. That's the problem releasing that early. So, best performance, we picked Brianna White out of this one. The actors for Kay from Star Wars Outlaws was here. The actor for Silent Hill 2 was also here. The actress for Senua Saga, Hellblade 2 was there. And the actress for Max Caulfield for Life is Strange 2 was also there. I picked Brianna because she's just such an endearing person, and I like Aerith in Rebirth a lot. Even though I like the other performances of the other ones too. I feel like Kay from Star Wars Outlaws like really holds that game like glued together.
Yeah. I acknowledge it in some ways, but Brianna just crushed. I mean, I just think about every emotional scene with Aerith and every little detail. I mean, like some of it I'm sure is hand animated instead of mocapped, but you know she crushed it with her voice performance in a very difficult and I would say impossible to adapt scene to still hold as much emotion as it did and somehow killing it.
Yeah, to me, like what made me like go fully for Brianna was chapter 13 at the Temple of the Ancients.
That's what I was thinking.
And the final date. the dream fate with Cloud.
Chapter 10?
Chapter 14.
14. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when they're like when they're recreating when they're recreating the sack date.
Oh,
and then she like gives Cloud the material and then just pushes him through like the portal when Sucker's kind of coming in. That I feel is like the emotional peak of that. Like it's just so emotionally heartbreaking at that point, because like you're saying goodbye to Aerith that has accepted her fate, that you know is happening, because that game is like dangling her fate throughout you like the whole time, and then leaves you in denial at the end. So that has a lot to do with how well she was performed. So that's why she was my pick. She won over the Golden Joysticks. Let's see, she gets the win here, because I would hope that Melina Jurgens, who did the Hellblade one, like she won best performance back in 2017 for the first game. I think she did much better in the first game than the second game. In the second game, I feel the only thing that she did was emote more because of the technology. So it's like the only thing. It's not that the subtlety of the performance that you see from Arian, that it's like had a lot of depth in her very Disney-like like cheerfulness. There was like an underlying darkness in that character you saw in Reaver.
Just fantastic work. But speaking of facial expressions and all of that, best audio design,
Hellblade 2, because that game like drives this thing through because of the sound design of like the voices being in your head.
The fact that the game's mostly built around the idea of the audio design and the surrounding voices whispering is like, I didn't even have to play the game. I know that's just so clever.
Yeah, less impressive for me because it's like a sequel. It's still doing the same thing, and the voices in the second game are just much more annoying. In the first game, they feel like so I made the joke that it's kind of like you're going to a matinee and you have like and you're like sitting with some grandmas behind you that would like comment on everything that you're watching, so they feel like that, like chatty moments. So, but I just put it there because like technically just it's a game very known for its audio. Rebirth and Asteroid were also like there, but I was like in those games I think more about like the soundtrack than I do their audio design. So and obviously there was best score in music afterwards. I picked Rebirth. I absolutely picked Rebirth.
It's so hard for me to go back and forth on it because I just talked about how like yes, it deserved to win at the Golden Joysticks. Metaphor's music is amazing. I think depending on the day, I could pick either Metaphor or Rebirth.
I'll say this: the battles, the battle theme from Metaphor with that like. Have you seen the video of the monk? He was at TGS doing it. And it was like that's actually really cool. That's like the catchiest song of that entire game, and it's like
I feel like it's more unique for me.
But the Reverse soundtrack is like 400 songs, and it's like there's such quantity and quality of soundtrack. It's like it goes so far, like it goes so hard, and like you use different like motifs of different songs at the same time that like perfectly flow with each other depending on where you are like in the story, or what you're doing action wise and all that. Like you have the Bow Wow Wow song from the Solomon Quest with the dog, that then the battle theme is like a K-pop version of that that just starts. And I really love this video that G Park did. Is like when you know Reavers is the best song, and they have the people like dancing to the battle thing of the Bow Wow Wow song. It's like that game just has insane music. It's just insane music. I've been hearing it a lot, so that's why I went for Reaver. It's like the most like when it comes to like most, I feel Reaver takes that. But the Metaphor one is like, oh, that thing is very I hum it a lot too. It's like that's the song. So for best art direction, you picked Metaphor. Yep. I picked Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. My thing is that I feel like the anime art style of Metaphor can be really striking in the character designs and all that. In a big TV, Metaphor is an eyesore for me. It's a very jaggy game, kind of ugly in some spots.
That's why I think. Let me get the. That's why I said art direction and not like. If it was like visuals, I would not do that.
Yeah.
But it's because of the specific choice of like the way they use their art. I mean, the menus and everything within that, just it all meshes so well. Besides, the one area that I think you could get me on is how desaturated, like the weird desert, in like the regions around you are, and especially the design of like the dungeons and the like above ground maze-like areas are just super uninspired for me personally.
Yeah.
But everything else for me, just oozing style is the reason spectrum.
Yeah, I can say it. I can see that. To me, it was like I saw that. What was the most visually striking game from an art perspective that I saw? And to me, this is where I would like break Battleground here because I'm so against Earth 3 being in the nomination, but I picked Elden Ring Shadow of the Earth 3 because like the art direction of that expansion like exceeds the main game. It's such a striking, like it's just such striking visual design that yes has its origins in the Elden Ring game, but it's kind of like imagine Elden Ring is already a very colorful game from software. Imagine that like raising up a notch with even more creativity in its interlocked world and all that. That was like I remember like gasping a lot with like something like that. You just the visual imagination of the world that they created. That was like I think I have to get this one. And also especially with that whole thing with Metaphor, where I see that style thing, and then I think about like, man, this thing looks, this kind of looks ugly in my TV. So I have to like really like break through for that one. But like, let's see, like if there's integrity amongst the voting class of like trying to reward, like okay, maybe Metaphor gets it. We'll see. Let's see where it goes in that one. So in that one, I feel like I actually went with the vote for like the critics that would vote here for that one. Like in that case, for best narrative. Interestingly enough, you picked Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. I picked Metaphor, Re Fantasio.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, the story for Metaphor is great in a lot of ways. Part of that maybe because I didn't finish it yet, but it felt simple enough that I didn't really connect the most with, like, I don't know, I didn't feel like it was going to turn me into any directions particularly that I wasn't expecting. But it's just a very simple meal made very well.
In what I played of Metaphor, I'm surprised. I picked Metaphor for best narrative.
Yeah.
The thing that I like the most about Metaphor is just how bluntly it's such a metaphorical allegory to like a presidential election, and the themes that are like covered there, and obviously it's like a little too close to home considering like what you just went through. Like
I think maybe that's why. It's just like I don't really feel like dealing with the whole concept. I like the concept and the gameplay around that more than the actual story, if that makes sense. I mean, and also I could totally change my mind once I finished it because I'm told that there's a lot of twists and turns that I'm not going to expect, but I just haven't seen enough of it.
I feel like what people love the most about this narrative, especially like I got to the 18-part review that he came out later, like about that, and how kind of like it. Apparently, it's a very blunt idea of like what an idealist democracy could be, and things like that, and how blunt it is in its idealism and the hopes for that kind of that kind of political future and things like that. That I'm like, at least it's attempting something very like deeper than like you would expect from most games, especially like compared to like a Persona game that was more about the traumas that they reveal, like the mental palaces and things like that. And I feel like that hits more, and you just knowing that the people that have finished Metaphor hearing why. That's why I picked best narrative for Metaphor myself. With Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, the interesting thing that I heard is that I heard the story of Infinite Wealth is worse than Like a Dragon. That's Yakuza 7.
That was mostly ignorance out of me because I thought that I heard Infinite Wealth had a really solid storyline from like what they did with
Kiryu. That's the thing. That's what's so funny. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, and Rebirth are like cut from the same boat, but they're like great characters. There's a lot of great character beats and moments, like at an individual character level, but as narratives, they're very thin. So it's more about how much like they're like episodic character pieces. Like when you watch a TV show and an episode is focused like in the point of view of a specific character, like Old School Walking Dead and things like that. It's like that's where like it's like a collection. They're collections of mini stories, like tied to a narrative that doesn't work like narrative. Like for example, with Rebirth is like has a lot of great character beats with the party and things like that, and teasing you of things that are coming, but it's not a narrative that works by itself because it's like the torso of a story. Basically, with Hope we made the joke that is like the remake project for Final Fantasy VII. It's like you get a baby, you split the baby in three. One game's the head, one game's the other, another game's the feet, and then a game's the torso, and this is the torso.
Got it. I'd probably change my vote if I could, but I'm gonna lock in and just see how it goes.
I can kind of see like maybe that's like the token win for Infinite Wealth. Infinite Wealth is one of the best reviewed games of this year. So, and I put Metaphor just knowing what people love about it. It's like Rebirth was here. I didn't pick it. I wouldn't personally pick it because what I love about that game is not the main story, where you would call narrative, but I love its characters. I love its world. I love its individual emotional moments. It's like that. It nails. Best game direction. I actually put Rebirth here. And then you put Pathological. Game direction was weird. It's kind of like, because it's kind of like
a little subjective. I picked it as like the direction of the specific game and its mechanics and how it's designed. And if a game is that addicting and obsessive to get so many people into a roguelike random card game based on poker, then it's like that clearly succeeded the most, I think, in execution. Even if I don't personally think I would rank it very high for me.
Yeah, me with game direction, I picked something like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that I feel out of the 6 nominees is the more who are like against direction and game execution, cutscene delivery, and things style and all of that, kind of like got all like. It's very impressive that game like flows as well as it does, considering it's like bursting at the seams of content, and everything kind of feels very congruent with what it does. So I feel that's why I gave game direction to Rebirth. So that's why I picked it. So, but that one's like because the direction of Rebirth is completely different to the direction that from Metaphor, from the direction of Wukong, from the direction of Shadow of the Earth, from the direction of Balatro, from the direction of Astrobot. It's like it's such a disparate like selection of games that is very hard to like really nail what game direction means here. So I went so at the end I went with my favorite out of these games for the game direction. I went with Rebirth, and then Game of the Year. Somehow we both picked Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
I had to acknowledge, based on everything that was really put up there, Rebirth gave me the most emotion, I think.
Out of all the 6 games?
Out of everything that what were all the options again?
So it was Shadow of the Earth Tree, which you didn't even play because you burned out. I didn't
finish. I did play a lot of it.
Okay, so you actually got to Earth Tree. Like, you actually...
I got. Oh yeah. I played. I thought we've talked about this
because you played like 90 hours because you lost your Elden Ring. Say you played like 90 hours of Elden Ring.
I replayed all of that. I got through Moog, and I played through a good portion of that really frustrating part with all of the green cloak dudes and a lot of that stuff. I don't remember exactly where I lost steam on, but. I know I missed Bale at first, and I did something else in like the north area, and then I was just like, "Oh, I'm just not feeling it anymore," and it's hard to not be able to pause.
I feel so sorry that your experience with Earth 3 was like having to play the entirety of Elden Ring, which is such a chunker, just to get there, and that alone is why I'm so against Earth 3 winning. Look what you had to do to get to there. So it's like that's why I'm like so against it. Give it best expansion. It cleans up as an expansion. This is like more ambitious. It's one of the most ambitious expansions that exists. Just don't give it Game of the Year. That's why I'm so against it. Black Myth Wukong is there. I severely disagree with that game even being remotely like a Game of the Year contender. I feel like that game is very flawed. Very beautiful game. Balatro, obviously. I get why it's so fun. I get why it's like addicting. Astrobot is a well executed platformer. Metaphor is a great RPG. And Rebirth gave me everything I love out of a video game. Like in the fun, in the emotion, in the size, and the story. And to me personally, Rebirth was my escape for many parts of this year. When I really needed to embrace the theme of what this channel is about escaping reality and going to like a world that is both familiar but like happy inducing because it's so creative and like it's designed and it's vibe and all that. Like that's why I went with Rebirth there. I doubt it wins Game of the Year based on like the voting class, knowing that the recency bias on Metaphor is very strong, and how people feel very strongly about the story of Metaphor. That for a lot of people from narrative, they lean more there than they do Rebirth. Rebirth has more of a fan vote in those, but then it's like they're facing Black Myth Wukong in a big fan push. So as long as to me with this, like even if Rebirth doesn't win it, I just hope against God, like against all hope, that Elden Ring doesn't, because it's a bad precedent. It is a really bad precedent if it does.
But that was it. Our predictions and coverage of the Golden Joysticks.
Yes. And then like when the Game Awards happen on December 12th. On the 13th, we're just gonna say who got the most. We're gonna have to go through all of them.
We've already talked about it enough.
Exactly.
Now.
Yeah. So Paul, that basically concludes us for what we have for this week's Thanksgiving episode of the X Bottom. Before we conclude, let's read some of the releases for the first week of December, which is wild to say that it's December here, and there's quite a few. So
and we got Animal Crossing Pocket Can't Complete on iOS and Android on December 2nd. Anton Blast, I think that's Adam.
Anton Blast?
That's not right, is it? No, I'm thinking of a different thing.
Oh, okay.
Anton Blast, Switch and PC December 3rd. Delta Force on PC December 4th. The Edge of Allegoria on PC December 4th. Bridge Constructor Studio, Quest 2, Quest 3 December 5th. Caves of Cube on PC December 5th. Fantasian Neo Dimension PS5, PS4 December 5th. A horrible name for probably what is going to be a really good RPG. Fitness Boxing 3 on Switch December 5th. Infinity Nikki on PS5, iOS, Android, PC on December 5th. Skydance's Behemoth on PS5, PC VR, PSVR 2, Quest on December 5th. Marvel Rivals on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC on December 6th. Tombstalkers PC on December 6th.
Yeah. Infinity Nikki was announced at the State of Play from May.
And I remember hearing the name.
Yeah, it's a pink-haired chick. It's like this anime Chinese game that's like a pink-haired thing with a fairy, if I remember. It was one of those, and that's supposed to be like an early access like release, and it's supposed to be free, I think. So definitely want to check that out. Is it one
of the farm builders or something?
It's not farm builders, but it's like it's like I just know that it has a pink.
But you do like fishing and it's chill.
I know there was like platforming that I do remember.
Okay.
Marvel Rivals. I'm super curious how an Overwatch style Marvel game works. So, and I'm not as Marvel as I used to be. So it's like I'd be down to try it. Fantasian Neo Dimension. The funny thing is that this game was only known as Fantasian. This Neo Dimension thing is like a subtitle that is denoting this because this was a mobile game from Nobuo Sakaguchi and Final Fantasy composer Nobuo Uematsu that they put out on Apple Arcade back in like 2019. And what everyone always said about that game was like, this is great, but I wish this was a console. I wish this wasn't a mobile game. This is like the latest game from the creator of Final Fantasy, so it's pretty big that is going to be releasing on console. So I hope it's good. I'd be interested to play it. It's $50, so it's already nice. Cheaper. So then after that, there's nothing else. It's like we're the last thing of interest besides Fantasia New Dimension for me is Indiana Jones.
Yep,
that's it. That's the next week. So. And with that, Paul, we reached the conclusion of this week's episode of the X Bottom. Where can people find you?
Nowhere. I'm an enigma, and you can never find me. But when you can, I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at Dork of Art.
Yeah,
that is my name. There we go. I had to think about it.
You got Dork of Art secure over in Blue Sky.
Yep. Fortunately, it just. Yeah, I was able to make it happen. I'm really glad for it. I jumped in when I could. But yeah, where can they find you?
They can find me at _Segovia on Twitter, at Segovia on Blue Skies, at Alejandro Segovia 93 on Instagram. Yeah, there's a joke that I have different names in every
that branding, man.
Yeah, that branding. At the Slayer Giant on Twitch, and they can find me at they can find my written content, my current written content at thecriticalcorner.com. They can read my reviews for The Last of Us Part 2 Remaster, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, Skull and Bones, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, Final Fantasy 16 The Rising Tides, TMNT Arcade Wrath of the Mutants, Stellar Blade, Star Wars Outlaws, my op-ed on Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, my review for the DLCs for Alan Wake 2, my review of Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and my review for Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D Remake, which is the game that killed my console. It didn't kill it, but it was what I was playing when my console got killed. But I have two consoles now. That's out of one beheaded Hydra, two showed up, a slimmer one and a professional one. And that's it for me because I don't think I'm going to be reviewing Indiana Jones. So, and thankfully it's a Game Pass thing. So, Paul, it was a pleasure getting to have you again after close to a month of you not being on.
It's nice to be back, and I'm going to have to disappear back into the life of being an infant father.
Yes.
So,
it is.
God bless and pray for me.
Oh yes. And and everyone, I hope everyone that listens to this episode goes live. That's gonna go live during Black Friday. Basically, I hope you enjoy a little bit of an escape if you're feeling bored after your Black Friday shopping. I hope you enjoy and you cop some good stuff. And 375 PS5s, go get it. Go get one if you haven't yet. So and the Slim is a pretty slick console compared to the fat one. And maybe other like good sales. We bought Epic. I bought Epic Mickey, by the way, Paul. If you want to try it, so it was on sale.
Classic.
Yes, and then enjoy the holidays. Stuff yourself with turkey. Hopefully, you and your family members don't kill each other over political differences. And until then,
Press X.
to play.
Good night, everybody.
Hasta la vista, baby.